Hosting the Lonely Chapter podcast gives me access to stories and insights that genuinely shift how I think. In today's episode, I'm going to be revisiting 5 of these lessons that I've learned from guests and have stayed with me long after the mic's been turned off. These insights span from mental health to music and even to supplements. Make sure you stick around for number 5. It's the one that stayed with me the longest, but it's really changed how I look at men's mental health. With that said, let's get into the first lesson. Lesson number 1. Music is the closest things humans will ever have to time travel. This came from Lawrence Bradshaw, and this was in episode 55. The whole conversation had been about music and his journey through music as a session musician and various things that he'd done to help other people using music. He said this late on in the episode, but it's one of the things that he really believes in, and I can see why. Music can take you back in time, and to not only a memory, but to a feeling, to an emotion. When you hear certain songs, whether you mean to or not, sometimes against your will, you're just taken back to a specific moment in time. And like I said before, it's not just a memory. You can remember who was there, the faces that were there, the smell that was there, and the emotions that were surrounding the environment. It's proof that creativity doesn't just entertain in the moment. It gives us long-lasting memories, things that we can revisit coming back in time, and that's one of the things that music does. If I think of my own examples, there's various songs that take me back to weddings and funerals, but as one example, Grenade by Bruno Mars is a song that was released when I was 15, and I remember playing it on repeat in high school. But I can see that moment in time, and I could draw you a sketch of what it was like, who was there, when if you asked me to tell you what I ate for dinner last week, I'd probably forget, or I probably wouldn't be able to tell you specifically without a lot of thought. It's a concept that I really enjoyed from Lawrence, and hearing him explain it with the passion that he did, it really got me thinking. So if you're listening now, have a little think about it. Which songs transport you back in time? Lesson number 2 is control what you can control. Now, this is a thing that is said a lot, and it's quite a stoic thing as well. So I've probably spoken about it before and heard other people say it before on the show, but this is from last week's episode. So this is from the episode with Mark O'Brien, a former professional footballer who went through a lot in his time. Now, although this is a common phrase, or iterations of it are very common, hearing it from Mark after going through his entire story of the process was, well, it just made it hit different. If people haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend you go back and listen. But to give you a brief outline of his story, like I said, he was a pro footballer, but he had setbacks through 2 open heart surgeries, multiple very serious injuries, knee injuries, etc., and also early retirement, which was forced upon him through one of the open heart surgeries. And this led to that identity loss and spiraling into depression and anxiety. And he's now a mental health advocate and speaking a lot about how that was in the time for him. But like I said, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go back to it, listen to those words out of Mark's mouth, not mine. And if you want to watch it as well, I was lucky enough to record it in a professional football stadium at Rodney Parade, the home of Newport County. So visually, it's one of the coolest episodes I've ever done. Mark couldn't control the situations that led to him needing open heart surgery twice or early retirement, but he could control his response to that. And this reminds me of a quote from Viktor Frankl. It's probably one of my most quoted things. It's one of my favorite books, Man's Search for Meaning. But he says this: forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess, except one thing: your freedom to choose how you respond in the situation. Now, this insight is coming from a man who spent 3 years in various Nazi death camps, including Auschwitz. So if he can think that way in that situation, I think we can in the modern day. Have a think right now. What small thing can you control in this very moment, even if you think the entire picture at the moment is a bit of a mess? By the way, if you're enjoying these reflections, Make sure you're following or subscribing wherever you're listening to ensure that you don't miss future solo episodes or the conversations that inspire them. And if something hits home, I'd love for you to share it with someone who would find value from it as well. So moving on to number 3. There is only forward. Sit in it, let it be what it is until it's not that thing anymore. This comes from episode 60 when I spoke to Lisa Sugarman about mental health and the conversations and how to start those difficult conversations. It's something that we talk about a lot, is mental health and telling people that they need to speak more about things. But we don't give people the tools to actually have those conversations and to actually actively listen to people. So in that episode, that's what I tried to get from Lisa, was from some practical takeaways to go ahead and start having those difficult conversations. But it's those 4 words at the start of the quote that really do it for me. There is only forward. It's such a poetic way to describe it and to encapsulate such a strong message. And although forward is always the only way, the speed at which we travel forward is adaptable and it can be changed for everyone, and it depends on the individual. So that's where the follow-up comes. Let it be what it is until it's not that thing anymore. So sometimes we go through a feeling, maybe it's grief, and we try to push on and push forward and move on with our lives too quickly when we haven't fully finished processing what we've been through. Now, what Lisa's saying here is to sit in that moment and sit in that emotion, however that looks for you individually, for however long you need to, until you're not feeling it in that same way, until you can actually move on with your life without being pulled back into that moment. We always want to move on, but what if the most honest step is to just pause? This one reminded me to stop rushing with life and to actually let the feelings sit for a bit longer. Lesson number 4, and this one came from Aidan Muir on episode 54. This one's the supplement Creatine monohydrate. And Aidan told us about how it can benefit us cognitively as well as the physical benefits that we already know about. So most people listening will know creatine monohydrate as if not the most, one of the most research-backed supplements in the industry that helps boost muscle recovery and energy. One of the things that surprised me, though, was when Aidan started speaking about the cognitive benefits of creatine and not just the physical ones. So recently, there's been a lot more research into the cognitive benefits of creatine. And whilst this information is still young and more research is being done, Aidan was quite certain that there's promising research that shows that, especially in sleep deprivation states, creatine in high doses, so between 20 grams and 25 grams, can help in that short time frame. So I found this really interesting personally because as someone who works in the emergency services, in the fire service, night shifts are one of those things that will leave me sleep deprived quite frequently. So sometimes I have plans and I'm unable then to go and nap and to catch up on the sleep, and I have to wait until the end of that day. But knowing that I could have that large intake of creatine and that might be able to help in that sleep deprived state, if I've got a recording that day or if I've got something planned where I need to be mentally on my A game, it's really interesting research, and I'm looking forward to seeing more as it comes out. And it's also a timely reminder of how physical and mental lines come together. It's not separate. Everything links in together into one place. Now, the final lesson that I learned, and like I said at the start, this is the one that stayed with me the longest. So it stayed with me since episode 48, and that was with Dr. Robert Stevens. So the episode revolved around low testosterone and unpacking some of the myths around TRT and speaking about the truths of TRT and the benefits it can have. So the lesson is that low testosterone can actually lead to mental health issues. So why has that stuck with me for so long? Well, if you've watched this podcast a lot, you'll know that mental health seems to be quite a recurring theme, and whatever story or insights we're gaining, there's always an element of mental health aspect to it as well. It's something I'm very passionate about and looking to make a difference in as well where I can. Now, when we look at mental health and we look at depression, anxiety, and all the feelings that come with that, we often look at the mind only. We look at therapy, we look at medication and antidepressants. We tell people they need to talk to people, be more vulnerable, be open to people. But how often do we say, go and get your blood work done? It's something that I'd never thought of, and I don't know if you listening have ever thought of, but if you look at your blood work, there could be serious nutrient, vitamin deficiencies that are leading to this happening. You might have issues on a hormonal level that are creating these feelings and this level of depression. And again, like the last lesson, it shows that mental health and physical health are truly one combined thing. As Dr. Robert Stevens said in the episode, you can't outthink your physiology. We need the whole body to be working as one, not just the mind. We need the body, the physical body, to be doing its part too. When it comes to testosterone and things that we learned from Dr. Robert Stevens in that episode, the 4 sort of key things to look at that can really impact it and be detrimental are sleep, nutrition, stress, and exercise. So sleep, are you getting enough sleep per night? Are you going to sleep on regular timings? Are you waking up in the night a lot? When we look at nutrition, are you eating majority whole foods? Are you taking in enough nutrients and vitamins to really regulate your hormones? When we look at stress, obviously there's a natural level of stress that everyone is going to deal with in life. And there's this thing called eustress, EU stress. And that is the sort of optimal level of stress that actually can be seen as beneficial in life. So it's not no stress that we're looking for, but definitely elevated stress. So is there something happening in your personal life, in your work life, that's adding that stress level and in turn affecting your hormone levels? Lastly, but not least, is exercise. So are you exercising regularly? Cardiovascularly, weightlifting. Weightlifting is a massive one for testosterone as well. And building strength in the physical body can really help mentally as well. As someone who's spoken a lot about mental health and how we can get people talking more and actually looking for answers on how that happens and not just simply telling people to talk more, it's really made me think about the other side of it and how we can look at our physical bodies when we're talking about mental health and what things might actually be quite a simple answer to something that we never really look at. So those are the 5 lessons that have stayed with me the most in recent episodes. And whilst there's been loads more takeaways, loads of interesting people I've spoken to, these are the 5 that sort of stand out the most to me at a glance. If one of these lessons really hit home for you, I'd be really curious to know which one it was. So feel free to DM me on Instagram at Lonely Chapter Podcast and tell me which one it was. If there's someone who you think would find value from this episode, please do share it with them, as I'm sure they and I will appreciate it. Lastly, if you're new to the show, please hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps the show grow and reach new people, but also it ensures that you don't miss another episode. I'm releasing weekly, and normally it is a conversation with a guest, but every now and then I sprinkle it in with a little solo episode. Finally from me, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.